Driving in Cyberpunk 2077 is literally the worst. Now, I honestly haven't complained about driving mechanics in any game now that I think about it. I remember when Grand Theft Auto 4 came out and that everyone hated the game's driving mechanics, and sure, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't that bad. Like, you quickly learn the feel of the cars and I forgot about it. But this game, this game takes the cake. Okay, so I've been playing for the past few days now, and I have to say that I'm enjoying it for the most part. I got a grasp of the game's mechanics, the story is good, but this one thing is driving me insane. No pun intended. The driving in this game is hands down one of the worst out of all the games that I've ever played in my life, and that's really saying something. I'm 24 years old and I've been playing games since I was like 4. Now I want to explain to you why this is very frustrating as someone who works with game development myself. If I open up a default driving project in Unreal Engine 4, you can see right off the bat, I can make 90-degree turns relatively easy. No handbrake needed or anything like that. But for whatever reason in Cyberpunk 2077, I cannot make a regular turn without using the handbrake. If I do, the roads need to be 2 or more lanes wide, and I can't really be early or late in the turn. It has to be perfect. Now, are you meaning to tell me that in this free-to-use engine default project, I can have a better driving mechanic than this AAA studio on their custom engine? If so, that's absurd. And if not, then that means someone on the development team purposely went out of their way to make these mechanics just awful on purpose. Don't get me wrong, I definitely drive horrible as a choice by willfully crushing people's limbs, but when I'm trying to get from A to B, I like to do so with the least amount of hassle as possible in my default vehicle. Now yes, I get it, you can definitely find vehicles that have much better mobility, but even those vehicles still don't get you a smooth driving mechanic, and you constantly have to carjack people for them, which somehow doesn't alert the police, but slapping people with my pimp cane does. What pushed me to make this video was not the bad driving overall, but the fact that you start with V's car, which looks really cool, but drives like crap. And then you get Jackie's bike, which looks sick, but drives even worse. Like, a motorcycle should give me more mobility, and yet the turns on this are even harder to pull off. The next complaint that I have is braking. Like, you can't stop on a dime or hop out guns blazing while your car is moving. Like, the closest you can get to quickly stopping in a car is to get out completely, but you still have to watch the full animation, and it's just awful. It totally breaks the immersion and feels sluggish. So those are the biggest complaints that I have, which affects gameplay, but every other issue I have is more cosmetic. The sounds of the engines all sound very monotone and synthetic. Like, none of the sounds feel like they were actual recordings of any engines, but instead sound like weed whackers winding up over and over again, which is really lame. Like, I've looked into being an audio engineer for Blizzard Studios since I live somewhat close by, and they require you to have experience recording real sounds, which I would think that every AAA studio does nowadays, especially if they're trying to go for authenticity. Another issue I have is honking. Yes, I actually enjoy honking my horn and striking people with paralyzing fear seconds before ramming into them. The horns are really freaking random in the response time. Some are instant as soon as you click the left thumbstick, but others have almost a full second delay, which is just another thing that kills the immersion. Also, V doesn't even honk the horn himself like the characters do in Grand Theft Auto, so kind of whack again. One thing that doesn't even make sense to me is the meter at the bottom left, which gauges your speed. Like, as you can see, I'll hit 30 miles the hour and the bar is already maxed out. Now I'm guessing that this is the RPM gauge, which essentially lets you know you're constantly maxing it out and the car is peaking in each gear ready to shift. But why? Why not give me a meter that shows me how close I am to maxing out the speed of the vehicle? Doesn't that make more sense? Also, running over people isn't as satisfying. I don't get a good crunch sound out of crippling people, nor does my controller vibrate nearly enough as I would hope. I also can't crack people's heads open with tires or peel out with their blood mixing with any smoke from the tires. I also can't control my headlights anytime I want, so driving in dark areas during the day is literally a nightmare. Like, I've had terrors of this in my dreams, and I have to live through it every time when I play this game. The radio stations also don't give nearly enough info, and I'm actually thinking of making a whole separate video bitching about the music because I actually have the game music turned all the way down to 0. And this is coming from someone who used to actively go to EDM festivals and make EDM myself. But what do you guys think though? Like, am I just tripping out, or are you guys seeing these issues as well? Because like I said earlier, I'm really not one to ever complain about driving mechanics. For the most part, I feel like people tend to nail it and it goes unrecognized, which is a good thing. It shouldn't stick out in my opinion like it does here. Let me know your guys' thoughts below though. I'm really curious. Thank you all so much for watching. If y'all could do me a favor and give this vid a like and possibly subscribe to help my channel out, it would really mean a lot for me. Thanks again. I will see you all in the next video. Bye!